seminar. I'm Bill Gross. I'm a real estate broker in Los Angeles, California. And I'm here with my colleagues, Patricia Castillo.
The other way, Patricia Castillo here
No,
in
for
Downey.
me, you're that way. You're that way. And then for Gustavo,
How you doing? Gustavo Segura.
or Gustavo Segura for those of us gringos. We get together Wednesday at 5:00 to talk about all things home buying, whether you're a first-time home buyer or trade-up home buyer. We're here to help you. And here we are the week between Christmas and New Year's. And I'll tell you this, half the real estate agents have completely disappeared.
Yep,
And half of us are still working.
we're still working.
And the good news is, for me, half the customers I chased down or disappeared, but half are ready to do business. And so we're doing business. So Patricia, how's it for you? Busy this week? Slow this week? Are you working this week? What's going on?
Yeah, I've been working this week and following up with clients. Some have decided to come back into the market for purchasing, and still a couple that I'm working with that are getting ready to list early next year. And it's that time of the year where we're in the fourth quarter, ending of the year. Some people have kind of taken time off, but this is a really good time because it does get a little bit quieter, but I'm able to really connect with clients and spend that one-on-one time with them, follow up with them and see what their needs are and what their goals are for next year. And so it's been pretty busy this week, I must say. Gustavo and I were just talking to a buyer that is deciding now, they're coming off the sidelines and ready to make that move. So
Yeah.
it's a good time right now. And as you said, a lot of agents have taken a time off until probably January 8th or 10th. So this gives us that, leverage right now to just reach out to more people and connect with them.
Definitely. And Gustavo, how about you? Busy this week, working this week, off this
Yeah,
week?
so I think I'm 50-50. The ones that are serious about getting their qualification done, they'll follow up with the documents, especially because the rate, earlier in December, it came down a little bit. So they were like, yeah, let's get it done. The ones that are, looking forward to the new year, they're like, I'll pick this up in January. Just kind of waiting and following up on those. But so I think I'm seeing 50-50 here.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
So how are those interest rates this week, huh?
Yeah. The last 4 days, I think, in the market, it's just been, a little bit of a in the wrong direction for us in the bond market. So I think usually the last 2 weeks or so of the year, with the holidays, there's a lot of uncertainty what's going to happen in the new year. They just kind of go a little bit more conservative. So we've probably seen them go up a little bit, maybe an eighth to a quarter. Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, and I think the way I describe it is a lot of the big money traders, these mortgages are packaged into groups, sold in the billions to big money bank investors. And a lot of the management and top producers take off this week. And so you're like a junior trader, and nobody ever got fired for being too conservative.
Yeah.
So what's happened is rates have jumped up, I think more defensively or, just to avoid problems, about 0.25% in the last week.
Yep, that's what I'm seeing as well. And I think, that first week, even after that first week of January, I think, like you said, when everybody gets back, the market, everybody's going to be on full eyes on what's going to happen. I think we'll start seeing the rates come back down again slowly like they were.
Seems like, hard to tell. I do have a crystal ball actually over here. It doesn't work. It's I'm just gonna get it real quick.
That one
Yeah,
doesn't
go for it.
count.
Yeah, exactly.
That one doesn't count. It doesn't work.
Oh, it doesn't work. It's been wrong for 7 years now.
It's heavy. It's really heavy. I have a cute stand for it too. So
There you
I have a
go.
crystal ball. There. So there's
It's for show.
you guys can't see it on that spot, but yeah, there's a crystal ball, and it says interest rates up or down. I can't really tell. It's clear. It doesn't say one way or the other. Okay, well, there you go. The crystal ball doesn't help. How about magic pixie dust? We throw magic pixie dust, so I'll make the rates go down.
Yeah, there you go. Well,
How
I think,
about-
with inflation, they use a 12-month moving average data. So in December of 2021, it was a 0.6 for that month. So I think in December this year, it should be lower than that. So if it's going to be lower, let's say it's a 0.2 or 0.3, it's lower. So that means that naturally, as we get rid of last December and we put in a new December data in there, inflation is going to be lower. So as that inflation continues to come down, the rates will kind of follow it along as well. So we're going to be getting rid of some big numbers of inflations in December. January, I'm looking at the data here, is 0.6. In February of this year was 0.8. March was 1.2. So those next 3 months, once we get rid of that data and we replace it with new January, February, and March data, inflation will be lower and lower and lower, which means rates should be lower January, February, March as well.
So it sounds like you have a crystal ball over there too.
I'm just kind of looking at the historical data. So, I hope nothing goes crazy on this. I just kind of use the key metrics in order to see where rates could be going.
Okay, there you go. Good data. We want to have good data, make good decisions.
Yeah, exactly. Informed
So
decisions.
what are 3 things, if a home buyer is looking to buy a property now, they see rates went up a bit, what are 2 or 3 things they can do to lower their monthly costs when they do buy?
So that, seller concessions are coming in a lot right now. So that's big. I'm having.
And stop there for a second, because you deal with this every day. But for those who are watching this on replay, especially, all a seller concession means is they may want their sales price to be $500,000 and not come down, but they'll lower the sales price $5,000 or so or more by offering a concession. So the sales price is $500, but they'll give you $5,000 concession, so it's only costing you $495.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's a way to make the seller feel like he got his price, at the same time help the buyer get in the property.
Exactly. Yeah, and right now, the very popular program that a lot of people are using, it's called a 2-1 buy down, or even a 1 year buy down. And like you said, it could be as little as $5,000. For most of the cases, anywhere from a $500,000 to $700,000-$800,000 purchase price, it goes from $5,000 to like $12,000, $13,000 seller concession. So it's not a lot of money that the seller can provide, and then that's going to be a big relief on the first 2 years of payments. So that's one thing that could be done. There's sometimes there's even money left over, maybe like $2,000, $3,000 from that seller concession, and then that's used towards closing costs. So right now, buyers are in a position where, yes, maybe the rate is not where you want it to be, but on the closing cost side or on the buy down opportunity, we didn't have that a couple of years ago. So that's where you're making the benefit right now. So, it's an up and down process here, depending on what the market is at.
Those concessions were non-existent.
Exactly.
Even earlier this year. I mean, the market was, still.
They were overpaying for the house, right? It was going $50,000 more, but the rate was low, and they were happy with that. But they were more willing to overpay for the house.
It's interesting you say that, Patricia, in our intercompany dialogue. I realized today there are real estate agents. I've been in this business since I think before you guys were born, but and before those mountains behind Patricia. But seller concessions have been a thing throughout my career, except for the last 2 years. And so you have real estate agents who've never heard the term and didn't know what they were. And as one listing agent was complaining, he goes, I keep getting full price offers, but they ask for seller concessions. And I said, well, that's just a polite way of saying you're not getting a full price offer. Sorry, not sorry, you got an offer. And maybe your seller can work with it. So there are agents who really have never dealt with, and you mentioned 2 things: seller concessions you negotiate for. So you can give the seller the price, but get some money back. Second, you can use some money for a 2-1 buy down, a temporary buy down as a second option. What else can somebody do to lower the monthly payment, given the fact that rates have gone up a little bit?
So the other thing too,
I'm sorry about that, Gustavo. I was going to say, if somebody's looking at an FHA loan, the PMI seems to be higher as opposed to, like, let's say conventional with like 5% down.
So
move it from FHA into conventional if you can.
Right, and they can also pay it all out too. If they're moving into a conventional, that will allow them to pay out the mortgage insurance. So in the case of if they want to take care of that, because the seller took care of helping them with the rate, or they just want to go ahead and take care of that with the seller concessions, those are the options too. So there are some things that they can do there. With the market, if it is going to be coming down, if the rate is going to be coming down, I tell people to save as much cash as they can, not necessarily pay for a permanent buy down, because let's say they refinance after a year, but they paid, $15,000 to buy down that rate, then that money was only really benefited in 1 year, So if we're expecting rates to come down, don't use the long-term buy down. Maybe use it more for the short-term buy down or the closing cost or pay out mortgage insurance, something that can be able to help you out.
Got it. So those are 3 good ideas that you can use to lower your
Yeah.
payment. Another one would be use this opportunity to work on your credit, get your credit cleaned up, maybe get a little bump in the, improvement in the rate or fees, quarter point, half point by getting a better FICO score. And I think the
Yes.
thing that's universal now is buyers it was like a fast moving bus you had to jump on 2 years ago. Now it's more of an escalator that if you get on, you're on the escalator, but you might want to, before you get on the escalator, get your credit put together properly, or while you're on the escalator, work on it so you can get the better rate at the end.
Yeah, so every time I pull credit, I do have the option to play around with the scenarios of a what if scenario, that if they were to pay off $2,000 of liabilities, could their credit score go up 40, 50, or 60 points, right? So I'm able to take a look at those scenarios, and then I come back and I tell them, here's a report of what you could do. Here are the following cards, very specific too. It tells them what card and lower it by how much in order to improve their score. After that happens, the consumer can just get a letter from that creditor that says their new updated balance. I use that to then work directly with the credit company and be able to do a rapid rescore. And then at that point, we can have that back within 5 days. Basically, they verify that information and they rescore their consumer profile.
I think that's really important too, because somebody may be paying down a credit card. They may have 2 months left on their car payment.
Yeah.
So that will definitely increase their purchasing power as well, because they might be right on the cusp of, let's say, 600 and maybe 650. So just paying down maybe even a student loan, those types of big ticket items will usually help boost your score and your purchasing power.
Yeah, and a lot of times, we think that it's a specific card. I'm going to use that. But, when I use these scenarios, we don't even have to touch that card. The system is telling us which card is more sensitive to it. And it could be that they are, it's been a more recently opened credit line. So maybe that's why it needs to, be paid down a little bit more. So there's different scenarios that are used in their algorithm. So the system goes and gives us a recommendation, and it tells me with 95% certainty, this is what we're going to do, and this is how the score could change by 40 or 60 points. So, then we use that, and then we go directly to the credit bureaus, and then we'll go ahead and do a rapid rescore. So.
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
So that's another way.
There you go. So there's 4 ways we talked about now.
Yep.
As far as watching your credit score, working on your credit score to get a better bump up and look at a little better rate when you do get a mortgage.
Correct.
Great. And then how about shopping for houses? What are some tips right now? It's again, 2 years ago, it was like jump on the bus and hold on for dear life to get a house. Now, I have a buyer who's literally set up her 5th inspection on a property. We had a home inspector, plumbing inspector, sewer inspector, foundation inspector, and chimney inspector, right? We could have done that. And the contingencies expire Tuesday. And she's all, well, they're going to have to extend me because we found a bunch of stuff and we're going to ask for some concessions, and they'll either have to give it to me or to the next buyer. So, and she's right. She found a bunch of stuff and it's documented. And so, but a year and a half ago, the sellers would have just blown her out to move on to the next one, right? So what else can buyers do in this market today? How else can they benefit to turn to their advantage?
Some things to look out for are the properties that have fallen out of escrow back on the market for a second time, maybe even a third time.
Yeah.
Some areas are still pretty hot and they are taking backup offers. I'm still seeing some cross qualification, on the listing on the MLS. And so those are things that you can look out for that can help you to have more leverage when you're making an offer if you are interested in that property. So they may be something they weren't considering before, maybe an adjustment to the price or concessions, when they come back on the market for a second time, it's, and the seller still wants to sell. So that motivation is there. Sometimes the urgency is there, especially if it's maybe a notice of default. I have seen more listings coming up that are in notice of default status. So in that situation, the seller does need to urgently sell. It's a requirement, and they're trying to get it sold as soon as possible. And they're also on a really tight time frame, depending on when the notice of default was recorded. So those are things to look out for that could potentially get you into a really good deal for a property that may be in the area that you'd like to live in. So those are things that we can help you guys with as far as searching for properties that have those types of circumstances and get you into a good deal. So positioning, I think, is really important. Positioning yourself, knowing what your budget is, knowing what you can afford comfortably every month. And also, hopefully, when the rates come down in the future, knowing that, you can refinance and lower your payment in the future. But at least knowing what your budget is right now, even though you qualify for, let's say, a $3,000-4,000 mortgage payment, you may not want to pay that. So it's knowing what's comfortable within your budget today, and just forecasting that for at least the next year.
Very good. Well, here we are at the end of the year. What did we learn this year? So we have somebody logged in, Stephanie. I don't know if do we know Stephanie? Is she a new friend?
No, she registered for the call today. So,
Nice.
well, Stephanie, welcome to our call today. Let us know if
Hey,
you have
Stephanie.
any questions.
Thank you. No question. My English is not so perfect, but I just listening.
You speak Spanish? Hablas español?
No, not Spanish, French or Creole. I'm Asian.
French. Parlez-vous français?
Yes. Oui,
Très-
oui, je parle français.
Oh, très bien.
Bien. Oui.
That's it. That's it. That's all I know. Sorry.
You reached your
Oh,
limit.
okay. No problem.
Well, thanks for joining us, Stephanie. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, end of the year. What did we learn this year, and what are we going to do next year? Patricia, what did we learn this year, and what are we going to do next year?
The market is the housing market is not crashing. The news has a really good way of just putting out that fear and that nervousness, in the public eye. So definitely talk to a real estate professional such as ourselves. We're in this every day, seeing the changes firsthand of what's happening in the real estate market. So don't believe everything you hear. And, when you're ready to either buy or sell, we're here to help you along that process. So for me, it's really about, preparation. And Bill, you were talking about priming this morning. I was listening to that on Facebook. So it's so important to prepare for what it is that you're trying to do, not just in business, but if you're trying to purchase a home or you're trying to sell your home, the market does change and the requirements and the psychology of the buyers and sellers change. So it's important to know what that aspect is looking like in today's market. So that's what I'm, advising my clients of right now, is explaining to them how the market has changed and paying attention to all of those factors in this real estate market.
Very good. And what's your plan for next year?
My plan for next year is just trying to help as many people as I can. The more people that I talk to, more questions that I ask, there are so many people out there that have different needs, not just in buying and selling, but even title related, just, different deeds that were recorded, transferring, property from this title to, adding somebody else, and somebody passed away and they're not sure what to do. So I'm actually taking one of my clients tomorrow to see Paul Velasco. You had him on your call, and just trying to be that connector for them, not necessarily, looking for that next transaction, but just really being that resource for people to get them connected to the resources that they need, because there are so many people out there that have needs. They just don't know where to go and they don't know who to ask. So that's what I am really, that's where my passion is at. It's just really helping people and what they need. And it's not always going to be buying and selling. It will be in the future, but immediately they may need a little help with navigating what their current situation is and understanding maybe why their property taxes were increased or why they have this new assessment on their tax roll. And so those are things that I've been, helping people with, especially with my background in escrow and title. It comes more naturally for me. So I love helping people with those sorts of challenges.
So, and Gustavo, what did you learn this year?
Yeah, a lot of times we think we know what's happening and the market just surprises, right? And that's just it was a hard reality, I think, for a lot of people. We stopped looking for the signs. I think we know the signs, like we were just talking about the the CPI, the consumer price index. We're talking about inflation. But when things are going so well, I think we forget to look at those items, right? And there are clear indicators of those. And I think as consumers, we want to be smart consumers and shoppers. So that means, staying up to date, like you said, about their credit score, about their lending options, asking questions. Don't think that it's a very simple question. There is no dumb question, right? Make sure that as consumers, I always tell them, even after I explain something to them, make sure you feel comfortable. So definitely it's a process where, you don't rush into it. And even though in the previous years, the house was selling the same day. Hey, you lost it. You weren't ready. Maybe you didn't feel comfortable. Your finances weren't in order. It's okay. There's going to be other markets. There's going to be other houses, right? You want to make sure that you make that move when it's the right time for you. I think also too, the biggest thing is, like Patricia said, the market is not crashing. There's a lot of indicators about that. Going back to the data, right? Foreclosures are not coming out. Yes, there's an increase because there was, a stoppage of that during COVID, right? So the typical foreclosure pattern that was happening, that stopped for a while and then it picked up. So yes, it's going to have an increase, but and then that's going to make the headlines, right? Foreclosures are increasing and all that kind of stuff, but that was just because there was a stoppage in that. So the market's not going to crash like that. It's not a previous market. So now we just got to be ready for what's coming up next, which I do think are going to be lower rates.
Okay. Well, let's see. I learned this year that I can accomplish more than I thought I could by just pushing a little bit at a time. And I would say next year, our plan is to continue to build this and grow this community, help more people buy houses, help more people sell houses to buy houses, and to help more real estate agents increase their income and build their wealth. And so that's what we do every day. So I think we'll wrap up here because we all have big plans for New Year's. We need to get started now.
We have to start priming for our New Year's Eve.
Yeah, actually, it was so pathetic. My daughter asked if we would watch our grandson New Year's Eve. My wife and I have been waiting all week long, hoping that would be our New Year's Eve party, be watching our year and a half old grandson. So that's our hot party for the night. We'll be watching him and watching on a little video as he's sleeping in his crib. Big plans, Patricia, for New Year's?
No, I usually just, kind of stay home with family, and my dogs are very sensitive to fireworks. And here in Downey, it sounds like, it's 4th of July. So I usually get some sedatives for my dogs and keep them quiet. And I think I take one for myself later on too.
Very nice. Okay. Well, after all the eating you did over Christmas holiday, at least you could do is have a quiet New Year's.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. I'm stuffed from all your Christmas partying. I grew up in La Habra, more of a Mexican culture, and like every place you went, people had tamales. You had to eat. If you eat the tamales, you're insulting the mother. See, if you went to 3 or 4 houses in a couple of days, it's a lot of tamales to eat in a short period of time. So,
fortunately, mine. They're in the freezer because I can't take any more. So I had to freeze them, and I'll eat them during the year.
It's all about, if in the Mexican culture, it's all about the tamales. The whole holiday, it's really not Christmas, it's tamale miss is really what they should call it.
It's a whole week-long process.
Gustavo, any big plans for New Year's?
We'll just be with the family. So we're going to be staying here. We'll go out and we have such, well, not now, but we had such good weather, right? That we were just doing a lot of bike riding, the beach, just kind of hiking. So we're going to be doing more of that if the weather permits.
Nice.
Yeah.
I'll be swimming. I swam today, swim on Friday, and Sunday is the penguin swim, New Year's Day, down by the Venice
Ah.
Pier. So I'll do that for fun. That'd be
Oh,
my
cool.
highlight of my
Nice.
New Year's every year. Yeah. So look, real quick, we'll wrap up. If somebody wants to get more information from you, Gustavo, how do they get a hold of you?
Direct call 714-334-4563. And then there's my website, senderohomeloans.com. Thank you.
Fantastic. You're welcome. And Patricia, if they want to get a hold of you, they reach out to you on the IG,
On the IG, yes, DM me or
on the
contact
gram,
on
for
the
you
gram.
young, for you young people on the gram.
Yes, DM me on the gram or call me directly at 323-365-9909.
And is your Instagram handle Patricia Castillo sells LA, or is it Patricia Castillo sells LA? Which one is it?
Sí, Patricia Castillo sells LA.
Your accent's so good. I just have to practice every time I talk to you. I'm Bill Gross. I'm on social media at Bill Gross EXP. On behalf of Patricia and Gustavo, thank you for all your support. Let's make next year the best year ever.
Yeah.
Have a safe, healthy, and happy New Year. Thank you, everybody.
Yep, Happy New
Have a
Year.
happy New Year. See you guys.
Bye-bye.
Bye, Stephanie.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye,
Bye,
Stephanie.
Stephanie. Au revoir, Stephanie.
Au revoir. Joyeux Noël, bonne année.
Sure, whatever.
She got us there.
Hey.